Hello and welcome to Learning Allies College Success Program's webinar, A Crystal Ball for Blind and Visually Impaired Students, a glimpse into your first semester at college, part 2. We want to welcome you all to the webinar. My name is Katie Otaggio and I work on the College Success Program as the Engagement Operations Manager. Today we have some perspectives and knowledge and experience to be shared from some of our CSP mentors, as well as some members of the program, some students. So to introduce them, first we have Glenn Dausch, who is a CSP mentor and will be our moderator today. Glenn is an adaptive technology specialist and usability consultant living in New York. While he doesn't see blindness as a barrier, he recognizes that no two people experience life the same way. In his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his family, reading, and playing the guitar. He is looking forward to sharing his experiences both as a student and as a university disability services administrator. We also have Maureen Hayden, who is another mentor. Maureen has a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology from the University of Rhode Island and a Master's in Biology from Walla Walla University, and is currently pursuing a PhD in marine biology at Texas A&M University. She was born with retinopathy of prematurity and has no vision in her right eye and is legally blind in her left eye. We also have Rashad Jones, another mentor. Rashad has a bachelor's in music education from Columbus State University, and he serves as minister of music at his church and is a self-proclaimed people person. The students we have with us today are Mikayla, Gephart, and Faizan, Jamil. So they will all be sharing their experience and knowledge from their first year of college. And with that, I will pass it off to Glenn.
So, good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody for attending. Since we are, short on time, I want to jump right in to our questions. And sorry, I had a technical difficulty here. Okay, so looking at what your first year of college and what you did to prepare, Maureen, can you talk a little bit about how you got ready to travel to college and what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, definitely, Glenn. So I grew up in Arizona and chose to go to school out of state, wanting to be a marine biologist. It's hard to do in the desert. So that meant moving to Rhode Island. One of the things I did is I made sure to communicate with student disability resources beforehand and talk to them about what my accommodations were in high school and how to transfer that to the college setting. I would say I was probably more well prepared than most to have that discussion, as my mom is a teacher for the visually impaired, so I couldn't get away with much growing up. But hindsight being 2020, pun intended, it meant I was able to have those kinds of discussions very confidently right out of high school, especially when making sure it came to knowing what I needed for college, because in college you are the one who works with your disability services coordinator to write your accommodations letter and say, these are the things I need for class. In addition to making sure I was prepared academically, I also attended a student orientation at the University of Rhode Island, which was a 2-day event where we stayed in the dorms overnight. And then I also, in non-pandemic times, had to move cross country. So that included not only making sure I had everything I needed and packing light to fit it all in the back of the van, but also taking the things that I really needed. So for example, my 30-inch external computer monitor for doing homework in my dorm, and taking my Victor reader and my white cane and the things I would need to be successful in the classroom, but also recognizing that I was sharing a dorm room with 2 other girls and being conscious of like the living situation.
Is there anything that you didn't bring with you that you felt helped you ease that transition when
Um,
moving?
yeah, I would say we didn't bring a lot of like bathroom and toiletry supplies. So like we shopped for as much of it at Target as we could. And then also the bookstore had a bundle that when you went to campus, you could pick up all of your bed sheets and things for the dorm at the bookstore instead of having to have them shipped to your house and then like drive them back across uh, the country. So we definitely like only packed the essentials, and then things that we could replace or buy at Target or Walmart. Like we just went on a, like one of the days that we moved in, my parents stayed with me an extra day and we went shopping just to help lighten the load.
Awesome. Mikayla, how about you? How did you
So
spend your weeks heading up to your first semester of college?
I spent my weeks preparing for college in a lot of different ways. One of the things I did was I met with disability services as soon as possible during that time frame, and I got my accommodation letters prepared. And then once I did that, I also sent email messages to all of my professors. And in my email, I still do this to this day, actually. This week I've been doing this a lot for my next semester's classes. But I send an email, and even though like last semester during the fall freshman year fall semester, I didn't have my letter because we had to pick it up the first week of school, but I knew what I needed, and I still do this even today in my emails, but I just write my own version of introducing myself, not just as a blind student, but as a student who's interested, involved, and then I also throw in my blindness and the tools I use while making it clear that my blindness is not what defines me, but I do need certain accommodations, and that I always encourage them to please reach out to me directly with any questions. And if there's a class I'm particularly worried about, I had a few each semester that I just wasn't sure I thought we need to brainstorm more for whatever, I would schedule an appointment between the professor and I. And if disability services might have a role in it for whatever reason, like preparing tactile graphics or Braille, I will also invite them to the meeting. But I was still the one making all those decisions.
Do you feel that,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, do you feel that emailing your professors ahead of time allows you to have an easier conversation with them when you're in class, or
Absolutely, because then when I bring them my disability services letter outlining my accommodations, they've already heard it from my perspective, and then they read the letter, and then they can ask me any questions they have about it.
Awesome. Thank you. So, moving through time a little bit, the first time you got to campus is always a bit surprising. But I'm wondering, Faizan, if you could talk a little bit about what surprised you the most when you got to campus for the first time.
Sure, Glenn. So when I currently go to SUNY New Paltz, and I entered my freshman year, like around 3 years ago almost. I got there, new college, new dorm, basically, completely just alien environment. And then basically what I found out was that I came in, and then the RA staff are at the door. They're greeting new incoming freshmen as they're coming in, and they're greeting them. They're asking how they are. They're offering to help with like certain things. They're just being so welcoming and so helpful. It just eased my mind quite a lot, and I imagine that's what their goal is, to ease the minds of students and make them feel a bit more welcome.
So it sounds like that having that welcoming committee, so to speak, really eased the transition for you, and was an unexpected experience for you.
Absolutely, 100% it did, and it was and I new college student, so I didn't really expect that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Rashad, how about you? What was surprising to you when you first got to college? What was the most surprising aspect for you?
One of them was certainly just the kindness of everybody around me. Most people were willing to walk with me the first couple of times when I was still learning how to get around, and they were still trying to figure things out too, but they were just incredibly kind. People would eat with me. things like that. But then the other thing, like on the academic side or the advocacy side, I was surprised to find out that I actually had to purchase books. Even though I could not use the printed books, I had to buy them and have a proof of purchase so that the Disability Services Office could find a way to get the materials in an alternative format that I could use. So that was kind of a surprise, but I understood eventually that was just part of the process.
Okay. Then definitely purchasing something that you couldn't use, but that did allow you to get the formats that you could use, just
yes,
to understand.
absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
And sometimes that wasn't always, they didn't always produce it in time, or they had to refer to another agency to get them in alternate formats, but it ended up working out in the end.
So it sounds like between what Mikayla was saying and what you're saying is, getting things in place, getting those accommodations in place well ahead of time,
Yes.
really helps you to.
Yes, it does. It takes the ball out of your court, and the more you can do that, the better off you are as a student.
Awesome. And Maureen, what surprised you the most when you first got to campus?
I would say one of the things that I didn't do in orientation and mobility that I wish I would have done was learn to navigate the dining hall. Going to a school of 16,000 students, we had 2 dining halls and they were quite large. So learning where all the food stations were, learning how to use the website and the university app to find meal options. And then also, I think one of the ways I overcame that is my friends learned that eventually to find them in the dining hall, they would just stand up and shout my name from across the room, and they were perfectly comfortable doing that. And I would just use my ears and locate them like Daredevil. They would always joke. And that was really nice. I had made friends with the marching band, so I was very fortunate to never eat alone. I immediately had 100 friends who would always look out for me. It was wonderful. And then also another way I overcame that is you learn to make friends with certain staff members and they know you, and it was great. Like one of my favorite staff members was the lady who made the grilled cheeses. So you definitely learn ways to overcome that. But that was one of the things that definitely took me aback the first couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
But it was fun discovering new food stations, for sure.
So you discovered new food stations and then stuck with the grilled cheese, I take it.
No, the pasta station was also pretty great, and so was the omelet station. So
okay.
You gotta learn.
Food is important as a college student. You'll for your new students out there, you'll learn that very quickly. Mikayla, how about you? What was most surprising to you when you first got to campus?
Well, the school I attend is a small private women's college, and one of the major things that sets us apart is that there's a lot of different mentoring programs between freshmen and also upper class sophomores to seniors. And like, for example, each freshman is assigned a group led by an advisor, a student advisor that goes through orientation together. And also we have dorms with RA. And even though I had been on campus for orientation and mobility with family and friends, we would explore together, and sometimes they would even tell me, okay, meet me at the dining hall so I could practice getting around. But even so, there were still things that I didn't really always know how to get, like buildings I didn't know how to get to all the time. And one of the things that I found helpful was that both my student advisor and also my RA told their respective groups that if we wanted to take a tour of campus and learn where our classes were, that they would do that with us. And I went with both of them around campus, and each time I learned something different. So I feel like my advice from that is, when you think of orientation and mobility, it doesn't always just have to be with an instructor walking around learning routes. It can be just exploring with family or friends, or even walking around with other people, because when we did these little tours with my student advisor and RA, I wasn't the only one who needed a little extra help. All new students do.
I'm really glad you brought that point up, Mikayla, because the other thing that, getting the tour from other students on campus is they may know of, easier routes to travel on campus, or when certain buildings have higher traffic than others. So being able to get the tips from people that are on campus every day.
Exactly. Like one day I was traveling to a building that I went to all the time, and I knew my route. I practiced it multiple times with different people. Well, all of a sudden, that route was blocked off. So, thankfully, another student who had been there longer happened to be coming from the building I was headed to, and she taught me a different way. And after I learned that way, I started using that way occasionally myself.
I'm really glad that you brought that point up, because one of the things I was going to talk about, college campuses are notorious for construction. And so as long as you learn just one route to get there, inevitably that one route will be shut down at some point during your college career.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Much
I can attest to that.
Yeah. Even if it's first to your dorms, there's going to be something blocking your dorm. There's going to be a wedding in the atrium, and they have a sign, but you can't read that sign, and they harass you about it.
So you crashed the party? Is that what you're saying?
I just walked through and apologized and went to my room, and then learned another way.
So, being able to identify those multiple routes is always important. The one thing that I found most surprising when
number
I
of times
first...
I walked into caution tape at night just because I didn't see it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. My first day of college, we had in five-way intersection traveling from the dorms to one of our main academic areas of campus. And it was an unlighted intersection, so it was a bit hairy to cross. And the first day there was a crossing guard, and I thought, oh, this is great. They recognize that this intersection is difficult for everyone. And I was relieved, only to find out that crossing guard was there for the first day to make sure that the drivers knew to watch out for pedestrians, and after that I was on my own. So, things change rapidly on a college campus. Just be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a great segue to sort of talk about how you persevere through the things that are difficult on campus. Inevitably, during your college career, you're going to encounter obstacles, be they academic or otherwise. But we all find ways to push through. And Rashad, I'm wondering if you could talk about what helped you to sort of push through, and when you found obstacles standing in your way.
Certainly, I don't mind doing that. I was a music education student, and so anyone who's going into performing arts, there are going to be certain checkpoints, certain things that you'll have to do, like mini recitals that you'll have to present at the end of each semester. They're called juries. Anyway, so I had experienced a rough one coming up around the junior year mark, and that level of study is very intense because there are a lot of major classes that you have to take, and so if they're not balanced well, and if you don't have a strong enough study skill about yourself and study ethic, then that can really become a tumultuous time, which was the case for me. And so after receiving some very discouraging feedback, a lot of needs improvements and things that I felt were very personal, it really took a toll on my academic performance and my emotional health. And so what I had to do was regroup over the summer. Just didn't do very much with music in that way because I'd become burned out and discouraged. So once the next semester rolled around, I took a yoga class, which is very intense, despite what you may think. or what some of the connotations may be. You may think it's just a couple of stretches and nice poses, but no, you really do get to work and strengthen your core and lots of different muscle groups. But it was remarkably very helpful and beneficial to my singing because of breathing. I was able to breathe more fully and in a more relaxed way, and it was just great for my overall health and well-being. So keeping up with that and really persevering, knowing that I had come so far, knowing that I did not want to stop it. Stopping was not an option for me. I knew I was going to finish if I didn't do a thing else after that. So sometimes the negative experiences that we face can fuel our motivations to become stronger. And so also take a yoga class or something that's physical, because that really does impact your mental health and vice versa.
And Rashad, I'm so glad you touched on that, because mental health and finding that balance between the work that we're doing academically and taking care of ourselves is so important in college. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but having that work-life balance does not just start in your career; it starts in your academic career as well.
Yeah, so just being mindful of those things, those pitfalls early. Even I think in virtual settings, making a delineation between work and the rest of your life is so important.
So don't take class from your bed is really what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't advise doing that very often.
Okay. Faizan, how about you?
Ooh, where do I even begin? Let's see. Question is, how do I persevere when things get tough? I
Yeah.
guess I'll just rattle off a couple of different examples just real quick. So first semester of college, I received no prior warning on this. I took a calc course first semester of college. Didn't do so hot. Did not do well at all. In fact, I failed that class. And it was luckily my grade situation improved throughout the semester, but just as a whole, I sort of figured out, like, you're in college, you're a freshman, you might not know, depending on your high school experience, how to like learn to overcome things, but slowly, like, you learn and pick up techniques, you start experimenting, you see what works for you. What worked for me was therapy and getting a social life, basically. Which that doesn't mean I go out and party, but for me it's more so, hey, let me get a nice small group of friends that I can rely on, that I can be consistent with. And I found that, especially throughout the last couple semesters, that has helped me quite a lot in terms of like remaining balanced and in terms of maintaining a balance between my schoolwork and studying, as well as reducing my stress level, because if I don't got friends, I'm basically just chugging away at the computer, coding or whatever. I like to remind myself sort of like that, hey, Commission for the Blind's paying for my college. Hey, people are invested in me. People are interested in my success. People are sort of rooting for me, so that sort of helped to push me along as well. That's sort of like also that sort of helped to push me along with the fact that I remember that, hey, at the end of the day, I'm at college to get a job. I'm at college to better myself. I'm at college to have good experiences. I'm the outcome of going to college should be a positive one. So that's I want my outcome from college to be like a positive one. So I sort of use that to motivate me as well.
So it sounds like you've found many ways to identify, groups around you that you can turn to for support, whether it's, looking at the support you're getting from the commission or from your social circle and your classmates, in allowing you to find that balance of what works and, diving into the academic work for better terms.
Yeah, therapy also helped me quite a bit. So
Absolutely, yeah. That's all right. So let's go around the circle. Um, Mikayla, what would be the one thing you wish you knew, taking in all your experience thus far? If you were able to go back, what would be the one thing you wish you knew about college? now from your experiences?
One thing I wish I knew is the importance of speaking up. Like, I've always known the importance of speaking up, but when I came into college, I met with disability services. We talked. Everything seemed great. They seemed to understand exactly what I needed. I had all the materials I needed to provide them. All great. Well, as time progressed, we had a few little bumps here and there. Actually, some of them were more than little. But I realized that even though it may seem like people get what you're talking about, it may seem like they understand it, you still need to be in on all discussions about your accommodations, your life, your anything, and you need to be preferably leading your team. I think of everyone, professors, disability services people, tutors in the tutoring center, anyone I'm working with as my team, and I'm the team leader. Because if I don't do that, I've learned that balls drop. And it may seem like, well, they know what I need. They have my letter. They've been doing this for a while. You may think that those things preclude you from being an active part of your team, but they do not. And it's critical that you pick up whenever you feel the need to as a college student.
That's such an excellent point. When you're in high school, you have a team around you, and in college, you are like the leader of your team, like you said, and um, even though there are those on campus who are there to help you, they're not going to take that initiative for you. So I'm really glad that you brought
And
that
a lot
up.
of times they may think they know what I need, but me being the blind person, I'm the only one who truly knows my life because I spent they disability services. They've been working in this field for years. That they know what they've seen other students need, but I'm the one who's living my life blind every day, so I know what works for me.
Hmm. Absolutely. Faizan, what would be one thing you wish that you knew, um, looking back on all your experiences as you're going into your senior year?
One thing I wish I knew before going to college is definitely how to get help and how to ask for help. That's been an issue with me for quite a while. Not just related to my academics, but more so, but also with like my vision. Just asking for like accommodations and stuff. But I've gotten a bit better with that over time. I'm constantly improving. At the beginning of my freshman year, I was more so I saw office hours. I didn't really utilize office hours. I would just be very reactive with my approach with office hours, as in only go after only go after I bombed a test, or only go after like or only go like last minute basically. I've sort of like switched with that approach because I used to be so reluctant with like ah I would always see like professors and their students be like professors if they had students already in office hours. I would always be like, they're busy. The kid probably needs more help than I do. So then I'll just like I'll find excuses, I guess, almost to like not go to office hours. I was doing this consciously, but yeah. So then with the help of therapy and friends and all, I sort of realized that like I sort of shifted my mindset into let's use office hours proactively. Let's use them as much as possible because, they're there. Why, if they fit your schedule, I would suggest I would utilize them. They help you. They help you a ton. And I found that to be the case with me as well.
Have you ever had experiences where the office hours didn't fit into your schedule and reached out to a professor to see if you could find an alternative time?
Hmm. Good question. Now, usually I just go with whatever scheduled times they post.
Hmm.
I've had times where my advisor's office hours didn't fit with my schedule, but because I would usually go for like scheduling and stuff, I would usually just miss a class, which I don't recommend necessarily doing, but it's what I did. So
Okay, excellent. And Rashad,
Hmm.
can you talk a little bit about some of the things you wish you knew, um, having gone through college, that you could have started fresh with?
Right.
What would be the one thing that you would go back and tell yourself?
I would tell myself that it's very important to set up a schedule of your work and your days so that you know what's due, when it's due, so that you can better keep track of your time. Because I'm a big procrastinator, and that's the truth. It's not something I'm bragging about, but it's the truth. And it's very important to be honest with yourself about your work styles and what helps you the best. Sometimes I think we know what other people might want to hear and what sounds good, but it's very important to be honest with yourself about how you work. So that's very big. I know that there are times where I need somebody to say, hey, did you do such and such? Or, hey, organize this. And so I did need that initial nudge. Once I found out how to make a schedule, I would do this on Fridays with a person from the Disability Service Office. We went day by day. What classes do you have? Okay, let's write down the times that you have in between, because you could be studying these times, or you could be working, or you could eat, or whatever it was. This did not cure 100%. It was not a 100% cure, but what it did was it gave me very sharp focus, and it helped me stay on track much better. And so I was able to do a lot better, noticeably better with my overall workload. So that's very important, to be proactive, to speak up, and it is okay to ask for help. Even if they tell you a billion times it is your responsibility too, at the end of the day, your neck is on the line. Might sound cynical, but really you have to take charge.
So I'm hearing a lot of common themes here: asking for help, being proactive in taking charge of your student experience, but understanding your strengths and weaknesses is key. Maureen, what would be your one piece of advice for yourself if you were to start college all over again? Looking back on all your experiences, what do you know now that you wish you knew back then?
I think for me, reflecting a little bit, high school was a very rough time socially, because I got grouped in with the special education department, which led to me being socially isolated in high school from a lot of my peers, by association, unfortunately. So I went into college a bit timid with my social skills. But I've learned to use my vision as just, it's a part of who I am. It's as part of me as much as I am a female, as much as I am a marine biologist, as much as I enjoy playing my trombone. And so one thing I wish I knew is college is a chance to redefine yourself, to write your story, and your blindness is a part of you. And I learned that a lot of people didn't even think it was that big of a deal. They actually really liked to see the technologies that I use. They thought voiceover on my phone was really cool. And your friends, if they want to be your friends, will learn how to accommodate for you. So now it's to the point where, like, if we were to go out to a restaurant and there's a billboard menu, my friends will say, oh, Maureen, we know you like caprese salads, or we know you like pesto on your pizza. Like, they have these options, and they'll just automatically pick up on things that, like, they know that I would need. And like I said earlier, like meeting them at the dining hall, and they would just stand up and shout, hey Mo, we're over here, so I think not being like socially timid with it, and realizing that a lot of people are really understanding. And I usually approach it by, hey, look at all these cool gadgets and gizmos that I have. And it turns out that it not only made me make really good friends, but it led to me having those good friends not only be accountability partners, but also be really good study buddies. And that meant, like, studying for an invertebrate zoology exam, and we would stay at the library until dinner, and we would survive off of Cheez-Its and iced coffee. So definitely, if you have a little bit of social anxiety, college is your chance to redefine yourself and practice some of those social skills.
Awesome. Yeah, and in addition to practicing those social skills, it's taking those opportunities to form study groups and help each other learn the material is another way for you to study. If you're teaching somebody else who knows less than you, or somebody else is teaching you, and then you teach somebody else, you can make sure that you're all going over the material for the exam. You're not doing this studying all on your own. Group projects and group studying are going to be really essential in college. So Awesome. Thanks for highlighting that. I want to thank everybody for sharing. I do want to reserve our time for questions. Katie or Abigail, who's got the question
Yeah.
window open?
Hi guys, can everybody hear me?
This is Abigail, and before we start taking questions, I just want to remind folks, if you do have a question, please add it to the chat box or raise your hand and we can call on you. And we already had a question from Jillian, and she wants to know a little bit about what the workload is like. She's interested in pursuing computer science, which is your major, Faizan, right?
Yes.
So, Jillian, feel free to unmute yourself. I'm hoping my audio is coming through good. I have a poor connection today, but
You're
We
clear.
can hear you.
oh, good.
We can hear you.
If you
Hi,
have-
can you hear me?
yeah, hey Jillian.
Hi. Yeah, so so you know, like Abigail said, I would like to pursue a computer science degree. So so I was wondering, you know, like what are the classes like, you know, like what's the workload like, and you know, like when did you know that like you wanted to study it, you know?
All right, so that's an excellent question. Unfortunately, we don't got like 5 hours, so I gotta keep my answers a bit short here. Let's see what we got here. So it kind of depends. My understanding of computer science majors is that it very much depends by the college of what the exact structure is. But in general, you will have an introductory computer science course. You'll learn about data structures and algorithms in whatever language they use. You'll learn about operating systems. They'll work on some more low-level stuff in terms of how operating systems work. You will have some sort of computer architecture class, probably most likely using assembly of some sort. Most likely you'll also have an assembly class that goes along with that, or even it's part of the same class. Let's see what else. And I don't know if it's for all schools, but at my school at least, they like last 2 semesters or last semester, they usually give you like some sort of like, it's a requirement that you take a projects course where you either do a project for the school or do an internship locally, so that they give you something on your to put on your resume.
So, Faizan, in looking at your coursework, would you say that the majority of your coursework and your projects are self-directed, or are they group-based projects?
Depends on the class. That's a very good question. That depends on the class. Let's see. Gotta think about this a little bit. At my school in particular, we have a software engineering course, which is group projects. We have a couple of like electives that are group projects. And that projects course can also be group based. So like I'd say half and half.
Okay. Awesome.
Hey, Jillian, this is Maureen. I would add to at the beginning of the semester, usually the professor will pass out a syllabus. Highly recommend you read it, like actually read the syllabus. I'm serious. And take all the dates, and if you have like an iCalendar or like a scheduling app, put all of your assignment dates in there. And then another thing I would do is like a week before an exam, I would even schedule in like reminders, like, oh hey, you have a statistics exam coming up in a week, you should probably start studying. And then the other thing too is for group projects, I'm gonna take Mikayla's advice, and you be the leader of your team. Do not fall to the tragedy of expecting your group mates to do
Yes.
it. You be the leader and hold your group mates accountable. Do it. Be the obnoxious texter. Like, hey,
Yeah, I've already had experience, you know, being the obnoxious texter, like being the group leader. So yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, then that sounds like they're saying keep it up.
yeah.
Also, Julian, just a word of advice, because I wish I would have known this as well. So I'll tell you right now, CS programs in general do not teach you, depending on the college, but a lot of times they won't teach you actual practical advice. They won't teach you a lot, because that's kind of a takeaway from my CS program, where they'll teach you something like, Java, C# or C++, but they teach you more of the theories and not stuff like how to use terminal, how to use an IDE, how to debug code. So I'll actually post a link here in the chat if that's okay with Abigail and everyone else here.
Please.
This is a link to I believe it's what, MIT? Yeah, it's an MIT, I guess, online course called The Missing Semester of Your CS Education. I would suggest you check this out. And yeah, do it before you go into college, because trust me, you do not want to be in a situation where you're not familiar with this sort of thing. It's greatly beneficial if you have familiarity beforehand.
Awesome. Thank you for the question and the feedback, everybody. Brian Velasquez, it looks like you have a question. If you want to go ahead and unmute.
Hi guys, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I do this every Zoom meeting when I'm doing something. So, all right. So I'm going to echo what everybody just said, and I'm going to echo something very important since one of you mentioned the syllabus. Okay. Syllabus is the way to go, because you can determine whether you can complete the course or not. So read it right away. Either go to the tutoring center, go over it with your tutor, sit down with somebody and go over it again. And leads me to my next point, dropping a class. Do not wait until midterms to drop a class. You will get an F. Okay?
And I think
Although
that's a
it's
good
not going to count.
It's okay to drop a class.
Absolutely.
It is.
I dropped a class my freshman year because I was taking the original like 15 credits.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was like, I called my dad in tears and I was like, I just really don't like this chemistry professor. He writes in fat marker on like the overhead slides and I can't
But
read
here's
it.
here's the catch. Here's the catch now. If you drop it early enough, you get a W, which is the withdrawal. But here's the thing with the F. Thankfully, it didn't happen to me because I dropped it on time, because of what I told you guys about the syllabus, and then there was like a paper, and then there was a couple of other things the professor did that I didn't agree with. She went behind my back and told the advisor that I wasn't following the readings when I was, and if that was the case, you should have came to me in person first, not go behind backstab and tell my advisor that. The director of advisement that.
So Brian, I'm wondering,
yes,
did you look for syllabi ahead of time, or did you wait till the day of class to get the syllabus in the class itself?
The way my school worked, we got it the day of. We didn't. I wish it was like that, but
so
most
I know some campuses have collections of syllabi, so you definitely want to look through those.
My school, you can, if the professor wants to, they can post it on our online class system.
Yeah, they didn't do that.
They have
very few.
Most of them don't.
Some do.
They don't. Yeah, they.
And Brian, did you have another question?
No, it was just what was I gonna say? And navigating school for those of you who, because since I graduated, take it day by day. It's gonna be overwhelming at first. I mean, my school wasn't huge. It wasn't 16,000 kids, but it was still a three-ring circus because there's so much going on all at once. And definitely familiarize yourself, and please get mobility early before you start school. Don't wait until you start.
So Brian, I think something tangentially that you brought up too is like be aware of your school's academic calendar. So be aware of add drop courses, like add drop dates when you would complete versus a markdown grade on your syllabus, and be aware of those deadlines.
Definitely.
If you are in a class and for some reason something isn't meshing with a professor, or you're just really not feeling it, like I said, it's okay to make an informed decision whether or not you feel like you should drop a class and wait for another semester to take it. But definitely look up your school's academic calendar and have it somewhere, like in your room, on your desktop of your computer, somewhere easily accessible.
Yeah, definitely. And most of the things are online now. So at least when I started, we had, Blackboard and Banner and all these crazy, weird websites. So it's more accessible than ever. So please take advantage of that. And please, and please remember about registration for classes. Very important, because it happens during the semester. and you want to get into those classes quick, because if not, let it be the class that you really need and you don't have it, you can't get in, you're screwed until, who knows, in certain classes, they do not give the following semester. You have to wait until the fall to take it. Let's say, when class is offered every fall, you're going to have to wait until the fall to take it, not the spring semester. So please be aware of registration dates. Please be on top of your registration fee and when it's due. And please remember to register on time, and also your financial aid, because if something wrong with your financial aid, you cannot register. So please, 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 people, be aware, be safe, be responsible, have a social life, but definitely time management as well. Time management. That's one thing I was good at, but there were times, I'm not going to lie, that I left papers for like, especially if it was overwhelming, there were papers that I had so much writer's block. And that's okay. That happens to everybody. But definitely learn from your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes at first. It's a learning experience. There's going to be ups and downs. There's not going to be a walk in the park, but you can do it. Always remember that you can do it. And definitely reach out for support. Make friends. Definitely reach out for support. You have so much staff. You have, thankfully for me, when I started school, there was someone that was visually impaired that was about to graduate that same year. So I turned to him for advice. And one more thing. It's okay to ask for help. Yeah. Because at first I was stubborn. I didn't want to. I was like, oh, no, they're going to say this. They're going to yell. They're going to. Because, you're coming out of the high school mentality where if you ask for help, they're like, what? What are you supposed to? No. That's what the tutoring center is for. So please take advantage for that. Please take advantage of that, people.
Great.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Brian.
much.
Thank you.
I'll keep going. We don't have much time, so let me leave it to people who may have questions. So
yeah,
thank you guys.
Berlin, it looks like you have your hand raised. If you want to unmute, you have a question.
Yeah, can you hear me, Abby?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Hey, I just joined a couple minutes ago. Sorry I was a little late, but I know that we're gonna get a recording. But is this gonna be on YouTube as well, on the YouTube channel?
Yes, yeah. Katie is our awesome marketing guru, and she has been facilitating our YouTube channel and our podcast channel through iTunes. So this will be up on YouTube probably within the next week or so.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Do we have anyone else with questions for our students and mentors?
Hi guys, one more thing. Sorry.
Go for it,
I figured
Brian.
I'd chime in to So one more thing, okay? When you have to take an exam, and this is something I was good at, but I slipped up once because I totally forgot to do this. And I got because I got a phone call. I was like, wait, did you speak to your scribe about, like, oops. Totally forgot, but I was able to, reserve it. Please reserve with your scribe in advance. Check with your if your exam is next Tuesday. Call since yesterday, like call right away and negotiate with your scribe what day you're going to take the exam. And also keep in mind of this. Please beware that some professors may give you some load over that. There may be times that the scribe may not do it the same day like the professor wants it to be. So you may take it a day late, you may take it a few hours later, you may take it a few hours early. And that's going to happen. Nothing is going to be perfect. But your job as a student, because I've had this happen where a professor was like, I don't like that. I don't like that. If I am the type of person where it should be done at 6 o'clock, it should be done at 6 o'clock when my class starts. And I don't like that.
So I
I'm
think,
like,
Brian,
well,
I
there's
think that's
nothing
a
we can do.
situation where you really want to partner with your disability services office, and like
Yes.
Mikayla said, really make sure that you are leading the team, that you're having that conversation with your disability services advisor, and that way they can interact with the faculty and work to resolve whatever those conflicts are.
And
Um,
also, if you don't mind me saying this, I
Go ahead.
personally don't use a scribe because I just use my computer to take exams. But as far as I have needed accommodations in the past for things like I've needed separate setting or I've needed different accommodations for tests, and I think being aware of that and being aware of when you can when you can take the test normally like everybody else, and when for some reason you do need an accommodation, and trying and being one thing I like to do with scheduling accommodations. First of all, my school is like a process or whatever. But if your school does not, or even if for whatever reason you do need to do this, one thing I would probably say, if you're afraid of running into a situation like Brian ran into, maybe start an email dialogue with the scribe or the disability services person, whoever it is, and copy the professor. So when you're talking about dates, the professor can see, and they can. This way, you're not playing liaison between them.
Yeah. I would also say, like, be familiar with your school's testing services process, because a small school versus a school like Texas A&M with 60,000 students are going to have very different registration processes.
Like my school has a very good procedure, but if your school doesn't, that's when that could come in handy.
Great stuff. So
the final point, the bow that I will put on that is get every conversation in writing.
Yeah.
If you had a conversation on the phone, follow up with an email and say, "Dear so and so, just wanted to, follow up. This is the conversation we had. This is what we discussed. This is what we agreed upon." Make sure that there's no question as to what was said and who said what.
That's helped me multiple times, and I'm only in my second year of college, so.
Yeah, it's a good habit good habit for life. Well, we are nearing the hour, and I just want to say again, thank you to Rashad, Maureen, Glenn, Faizan, and Mikayla for joining us. This has been a great conversation, and as we said, the recording will be available. We'll email it to all registrants, and it will also be posted on our YouTube channel. And Katie, why don't you let us know about the next webinar we have later this month?
Yes, so our next webinar is coming up on August 25th, and it is about low vision and the pros and cons of self-identifying. So being that you attended this webinar, you will be getting our communications about that webinar as well, so hopefully that will be of interest to some of you. And I also wanted to mention, currently right now, Learning Ally, our National Achievement Awards scholarships are, the applications are being accepted right now. So if you are a college, I believe a senior, I know some people here are probably younger than that, but some maybe in that age range, we're also pursuing a graduate degree. Go check out the scholarship opportunities we have available. I believe the one for students who are blind and visually impaired can be up to $6,000 each. So I know I would like to have $6,000, so there are other people would too. So just putting out a push for that to go check that stuff out. So, and thank you to everybody for coming to our webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Stay safe and take care, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.